Welcome back to the Obi-Wan channel. Here we are once again with another edition of moving on through the Junkyard Dawg motor here. 060 Ford 302 overbore. And we are just, if you're watching along, the last video I basically showed you how I gapped the rings and using this Proform ring filer, gapper, whatever, 110 volt. It's a really nice little unit, actually. In fact, I would even say that this is definitely the way to go. At minimum, you do not want to buy the one that you see that looks like this with a hand crank, because you will have to actually bolt it down to the table or clamp it or something. This one here, it's got a little weight to it, and sitting on this rubber mat, I've been able to use it no problem without it moving around, so I don't need to tie it down or anything. It probably would be better if I did, I suppose, but no, really, it's been working really awesome. All right, so this particular episode here, I want to talk about how we're installing the rings and dropping a piston in the hole. Now, I'm sure you can find YouTube videos, Rumble videos, whatever, all over that would explain this process, but I'm going to do my own. Again, I'm hoping that this helps somebody or you learn something. If you learn nothing, then you learn nothing. I'll do, maybe at least learn how to clean up your place, right? Not leave your bench and your area so messy like this, but this is unfortunately what I have right now. And, you know, some people actually kind of wish they had at least this. So I'm going to be grateful for it. So anyway, we're going to move on now and start talking about how we are going to install the rings on there, and then get the piston and rod assembly ready, and then actually dropping it down into the hole. All right, I'm going to try to take as much video of this as I can. Let's start off with the fact that, again, if you haven't seen it, go back and look. You will see how I filed the rings. You will see how I heated the rod to get the press fit pin into place, etc. And what I have here right now is I have the Junkyard Dawg bearings. These are used bearings that are, you know, just slightly used. They checked the clearance. They're 2000, so, and they're smooth. And if they were a little bit rough, I did kind of emery cloth them out, and they're fine. So they show the clearance that I want, and they feel smooth, and that's what's important to me. So I have clamped it here in the vise using these cardboard jaws. I think this was like packaging material and something that I received one time, and I kept them. I got a couple of them up there, actually, and I kept them because this is the purpose I use them for. You do not want to actually clamp a you do not want to actually clamp any kind of you know, thing, rod or anything that you don't want sharp edges on, you don't want it to break, etc., etc. I had a brain fart there. But my point is that you definitely want to make sure that you are clamping it in a soft jaw, and that's why I keep these around, for that very reason. I see you can buy all kinds of things with plastic jaws and so on and so forth, but this one here cost me nothing, so that's why I do it. So I've got it all clamped in here, it can't go anywhere, and then I'm going to now start bringing these rings, which I've already filed, and they are ready to go in place, and I will show you how I do that. So I'm going to put the phone on pause and try to set it up and show you. Okay, we're back, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lower oil control ring on, and this is your typical oil control ring right here, the expander part, and these are the rings that actually, the capture rings that hold this all together. So you can see here, you got a little gap there, this goes on there, and you got to butt those up against there nicely. You don't want to get them tangled up or overlapped over each other. They just go in there a certain way, and this is how I do it. I drop it in here like so, and I put the gap either at the top or the bottom of the piston. That's what I do. Okay, then I take the capture ring, and I start with the bottom one, and I put it 90 degrees to that gap. So basically, if I'm putting the gap of the expander, you know, top or bottom, then 90 degrees is going to be in line with the pin. So I'll just start down here, and I usually start with the very bottom one. Stick it on there like so. Wrap it all the way around. There's really not much you can do wrong there. And then just make sure that your gap over here did not overlap, or something didn't go wrong with your expander there. And you know, again, kind of keep it 90 degrees of each other. It doesn't have to be absolutely positively perfect, but you know, just an idea. Then I put the top one in, and I'm putting the expansion or the gap on the opposite side of the lower one, and you can kind of move them just a little bit. And again, they don't have to be absolutely positively perfect, but there you go. Now you see it, it's all in there. The gap over here on the expansion is butted up against each other like it's supposed to, and it looks really good. Now let's put in the second ring. So on the second ring, so here's the second ring at the cast iron. It's got a bevel on the inside edge here on the bottom, and if you can see it, I don't know if you can, if the camera's picking it up, it says top right here. So I take that, I'm using the piston ring expander for this, and you just kind of push it. Whoop, there you go. That's what we want to do. We want to have it pop out and land on the ground. Well, because my place is such a mess, I'm going to have to probably pause the video here and find it. Yep. Well, hey, at least you know I'm not hiding anything. Okay, well, I'm back. I found it. And so yeah, perfect example of nobody is perfect, especially me. But anyway, put that back in there. Let's try this again. I had to wipe it off a little bit when it hit the ground. Looked it over, it looks fine. But it was a little dusty from hitting the ground. Okay, get it all lined up. And ta-da, there it is. It is sitting inside of the second ringland, and I do the same thing with that one. I put the gap on one side or the other in line with the pin. Next, we have the steel molly ring, and in this case, this one here can go in like this or like this. It doesn't matter. Top or bottom, makes no difference. Same situation. Try to control it this time and hopefully not lose it. There we go. That worked out pretty good. Got that one in there, and then I'm going to turn it 180 degrees opposite of the second ringland. There you go. Absolutely perfect, isn't it? Yep, well, at least it took a little bit getting there, and you got to see it on video. All right, so next, I'm going to bring the piston ring expander over here, and I'm going to, or compressor, rather, and I'm going to stick it on top. I'm going to lube it up, and I'm going to put it on top of here and clamp it down, and then this thing here will be ready for me to remove the rod cap and get it prepared for putting it in the engine. So I have this Blue Point snap-on piston ring compressor set. I've had this for years. It got the right size there, 3 7/8 to 4 1/8. The camera's not exactly focusing, but anyway, you can see where the bottom is, so you got to have that to the bottom. And I will lube this up. I'm going to put some oil in here. A lot of times what they tell you normally is to use, you know, your regular engine oil or whatever to put in there. I don't have any, I mean, I have some, but I don't have like some that I can just easily grab and open up a new bottle just for this purpose. So usually what I use is the AMSOIL firearm lubricant. I love this stuff because it's not heavy, but it's not light. And it has a nice little spout here, and I just put it on there, and ta-da, it works really good. So I'm going to put some of that in there. wrap it around that thing right there, and compress it down. And then I will prepare it over here, and we'll be dropping it in the hole over there. Okay, hang on, we're almost there. Okay, we're back, and so I just take this right here, put it inside there, put my fingers on there, kind of lube it up just a little bit, like so. Just a little thin film really is about all you need, just something to make it slide. Come over here and grab a hold of this piston here. And you can't see that, I know, I get it. And I'm taking it out of the vise. And here you go. Now you can kind of see what I got going on here. There it is, it's all in there. And it has a ratchet thing lock on here, so it's holding on to it. It's not going to go anywhere. This thing is ready now to go in to the piston bore. You got to get the rod ready. Take off the rod cap. Loosen those fasteners right there. Pull that off. Now, this is controversial. I got in trouble for this when I was in automotive school, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to tell you I've never had trouble, and I'm going to tell you that why I do it. So I take a little bit of this sticky engine assembly lube. Again, this is not Lucas oil. This is actually AMSOIL in a Lucas bottle. And anyway, I put it on the back side of the bearing like that, and I put it back into the rod. The reason why I do this is because when you hammer this piston in, when you hammer it into the bore, I can't tell you how many times I've had these upper rod bearings pop out, and they end up on the floor or something of that nature. So why mess with all that? Why have to deal with all that when you can simply take some pretty sticky assembly lube, put it back there, and smash it down, and it will make it sticky. Okay, putting the rod protectors on right now, rod bolt protectors on, sliding those on. But why would you want to have to pick up this bearing off of the floor or out of the engine or whatever because it falls out? And when you tighten this down, okay, when you tighten this down, it's going to squish out the back, even at 2000s clearance. It's going to squish out whatever, lubricant is behind there. And by the way, if you have ever taken an engine apart as many times as I have, when you take these bearings out, what do you find in behind there? That's right, you find oil. You find an oily film. It is never perfectly dry behind there, ever. Oil will get in there. It will happen. I'm doing it mainly for the sake of keeping the rod bearing from falling out. That's my main reason why I'm doing that. Okay, same AMSOIL assembly lube. I'm going to put just a small little line right here on the bearing itself. Again, it's nice and sticky so it won't fall off. And, another thing that I kind of like to do is I kind of like to put a little bit of this AMSOIL firearm lubricant on the pin, just a little bit while I got it upside down like this, and kind of work it back and forth. Now, I use the AMSOIL assembly lube here in this area when I heated the rods up and pushed the pin in. Of course, I waited till after it cooled, and then after it cooled, I took this and I tried to drip it in there. It's hard because it's really sticky and it's really, really thick. And I worked it in there, and you can feel that it did get in there a little bit, but I'm definitely just dropping some of this thinner stuff in there to make sure that it is going to flow into that little lube channel, etc., and make sure that it is lubed up perfectly. Okay, so that's the reason why I'm doing that. All right, so we are going to put this into hole number 8 because that's what it says. It is, well, it says it's the 8th one in line, which happens to be hole number 8. And we're going to do that. So what I'm going to do is set this up to where it's at bottom dead center on number 8. Looks like that's about it right there. Okay, gonna grab the camera here. Alright. So you can see here that I've got it all lubed in the pin area. Really good, okay? So we don't have any problems upon startup. Also, you can see I got the rod bolt protectors on there. See, I got a nice lube, line right there in the middle. So when it comes down, that's going to be our cushion as it hits the crankshaft. Shouldn't scar it up or anything like that. And also, again, really good lube upon startup. So now all we got to do really is just flip this thing over, drop it down into that hole. Again, as you can see, I got it down there at bottom dead center. I got the block sitting where it's, pretty much straight up and down. And we will go ahead and drop that baby down in there. Of course, one last thing I want to do is just make sure, and I did clean this really good, but I just want to make sure that we don't have any stupid stuff inside the bore here before I go. And I mean, this was kind of a dirty rag. You can see for the most, well, let's see. There, let's do this. And there was a little bit in there. So, see? Good thing I wiped it in there. But honestly, I think I know what that is that I'm wiping off. I actually sprayed some graphite dry lube onto the cam area. And I think that's some of the overspray, honestly. Because this thing should not be dusty or dirty. I had it cleaned really well and I actually wrapped it up. And that is kind of a graphite looking color. So I believe that's what that is. Alright, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to set the camera up again to where you can actually see me compress it and hammer it down into the hole. Alrighty, here we go. I think I got the camera set up now to where it's good enough. Again, I got this lubed up pretty decently. You always want to make sure that the notch on the piston here, I don't know if you can see that, goes to the front of the engine, which is going to be this way. Getting that thing to fit in there. There it is. Well, these hyper-protected pistons, they do fit tight. I'll tell you that right now. They do fit kind of snugged. I built a lot of stuff with forged pistons and cast. I don't know, there might have been 1 or 2 times I've done it with the hyper-protectics, and I think this is the first time I've done it with this new skirt coating that they got on them, honestly. So here we go, just tap it in. Actually, you know what, I'm probably in your way, right? Yeah, you can't even see the piston anyway, but let's see what I'm doing here. Trying to keep a constant grip on that so we don't lose the ring. We don't let the rings come out and expand a little bit. We want them to definitely stay compressed. And you don't want to beat the crap out of that piston because you don't want to go so hard that, although I've seen people do it, literally. I've seen people actually just take one big whack and they got it in the hole. I just don't feel that that's the right way to do it, but that's just me. And now that I got it in the hole, because, and I have failed, by the way. I have broken a piston ring before because I didn't hold that tight enough. So it is possible. I know they got all kinds of ring compressors, ones that are already pre-made, the tapered style. I don't know, I've heard those are pretty good. I see a lot of those being used on the TV shows, actually. This is the one that, again, I bought off the Snap-on truck, and it's worked for me as long as you use it the right way, pretty much. So, anyway, I have broke a piston ring before, and I've had to replace it. Probably explains why I got a couple sets in that box over there that, you know, aren't complete. But anyway, we got her all in there this time. It felt pretty good. Now we're just going to go ahead and push down just gently. Seat it against the crank. There you go, just like that. Now, it took quite a bit of, you know, not a bunch, but there's enough friction in here, what I'm trying to say, to hold the piston in so I can roll this over. Okay? One thing that I will say, and I'm going to grab the camera for this. One thing that I will say is that you can get yourself in trouble sometimes by some of these really loose pistons, like forged pistons and whatnot. You can get yourself in trouble by, you know, you stick the piston in and then you have it, like right now, this thing is upside down. This thing could literally fall out. It could fall out on the ground right now, and that would not be a good thing, including if it's just nothing but a junkyard motor. It's just not a good thing to have happen. But good news is that these rings are really nice and tight, good tension, and those pistons again are really snug fit. They're I mean, those hyper protected with that skirt coating on there, really tight fit. So they're hanging on, and as you can see here, you can see that my rod bearing hung on. It didn't move. It's perfect because, like I was saying, I put that assembly grease on the backside just so that it hangs on and doesn't fall out or fall down into the engine or hit the ground, and it did. It hung on exactly the way I always expect it to do when I do it that way. Okay, so now we've got a, let's see here, number, I can't tell if you can see that camera, there it is, number 8. So now we got to get our rod bearing here, number 8 right there, and we need to put it on properly. But before we do, here's what I do. So we got a rod oiling hole right there, and I'm just going to take and drop a little bit of lube inside that hole, as well as right there, very lightly. Okay, it don't take a whole lot, but I put some inside that hole because when we start turning this engine over and moving it around and all that, that lube is sitting in there and it will fall out right here on the bearing where we want it. Okay, so now I got the number here, got the number there. Drop that down. Put that on there just like that. Okay, now, so this right here, these are ARP rod bolts. This is the ARP fastener assembly lubricant. I actually have cut several of these packages open and put it inside here. So again, another bottle that isn't what it says it is. It said that it's Clevite cam guard. I think there was a little bit of that left. Look at that. From way back in 2002. But anyway, there was a little bit of that left, but then I got a bunch of those through all the stuff that I buy, and I cut that up and I squish it down in here. So it's in here, and that's why you may have saw I had this thing sitting on its side, because if you don't do that, if you set it on upright, what it's going to do is all that stuff is going to flow to the bottom. So hopefully it's right there at the top. There we go. Put a little bit up there like so. Now you see I got it all goopy right there. So what happens is, I'll do it the other side. Okay. Keep that laying on its side. Grab the nuts. Okay, so now, when I go to put the nut on here, yep, I knew that was going to happen. I'll probably have to go looking for that one. Alright, so here we go. Yeah, you see? You're seeing how I don't know. I wouldn't say unprofessional, but I wouldn't necessarily say perfect. You're seeing that I'm not quite as perfect as I might even talk myself to be. I'm going to pause it and look for that stupid nut somewhere. Okay, I do apologize about that. It's probably a little bit of an awkward silence there when I was trying to turn the camera off. This is a brand new phone, by the way. It has no OtterBox on it. I'm used to the big heavy-duty OtterBox. So wherever I touch my finger on this thing, I got big fat hands. And wherever I barely touch, this thing freaks out and does something stupid, turns the camera off, goes to a different screen, whatever the hell. Pretty sure you guys probably know all about what I'm talking about. My point to that being is that I'm really trying to be careful not to screw this video up, because again, I'm not editing this thing. I'm not sending it off to editing, and you know, I just don't have time to edit and chop and whatnot. So if I'm going to make this happen, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up just doing a straight through video, pausing wherever I need to pause to get ready, and that's just how I'm doing it. It's not cool, I guess, compared to all the other fancy videos, but this is what I can do right now because I just don't have time to edit all those videos. So anyway, we got that kind of screwed on hand tight. What happened is that lube that I put on there, really goopy like, it will now, you know, as you put the nut on there, it actually squishes it into the threads, and it actually gets on the bottom of that washer head of the nut. So now there is lube in between the nut and the top of the cap, and there's actually lube on the thread. So this thing is ready for torquing, and I'm going to use that thing right there. Now, you probably have seen tons of people torquing rod, bolts, or any kind of fasteners online. So I'm not going to do that because this video is getting long as it is already. But I just want to also make sure that you understand that when you do this, you want to start looking for clearancing and all that. And again, being how we're using, you know, all Ford parts, it shouldn't be a problem. But it looks like everything's good there. It looks like even hand tight here, it looks like the side play is pretty good, you know. Once we get the other rod on there, it can't slide over much more. But I mean, that to me feels like a good 2,000s of clearance for sure, you know. And as I do that, you'll notice that it moves the rod over down below there. So that tells you that it's actually doing it straight. It's not doing, you know, any crooked stuff like this, which is good. That means that clearance is tight and that clearance is pretty tight. So as of right now, what I'm going to do, just so you know how I do this, I generally, I think ARP was saying like 32 to 35 foot-pounds of torque for this. So what I'm going to end up doing is I do 34 is what I do. But actually what I do with the torque wrench is I put it on there and I'll go up to about 36, 38. Just to make sure that this is fully seated in there and everything. Then I back it off, and then I come back down to where I'm going to land, which is 34. That's how I do this. So there you go. You've seen me now ring a piston. You've seen me prep it. You've seen me install it. And you've seen me drop my ring. And you've seen me drop my rod nut. So yeah, you've seen it all now. Okay? All right. Well, hey, like, subscribe, then go to Rumble and follow over there, and we'll be putting more of this stuff out so you can see this thing start up and be successful or a complete failure. Either way, it's going to happen. Thank you much. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.